It's Merriam-Webster's Word of the Day for January 18th. Today's word is implacable, also pronounced implacable, and spelled I-M-P-L-A-C-A-B-L-E. Implacable is an adjective. It means not capable of being appeased, significantly changed, or mitigated. Not placable. Here's the word used in a sentence from the New York Times by Clay Risen. His fellow cavers called Mr. Marion Smith the Goat, and he certainly looked the part, with a compact, wiry body and a wispy caprine beard dangling below a well-cragged face. He was likewise goatish in his implacable determination to keep going through mud and cold and scraped shins, with little patience for those who couldn't keep up. The word implacable is rooted in the Latin word placare, meaning to soothe, but its im prefix is a variant of the negating prefix in, as in inactive, and it signals that there's nothing warm and fuzzy here. Someone or something described as implacable cannot be soothed, which usually means trouble. Implacable is most often attached to words like foe, enemy, hatred, and hostility. The opposite of implacable is, of course, placable. It means easily soothed, but sadly isn't called upon very often. Another placare word is likely more familiar, placate. It means to soothe or appease, and it's frequently applied when an angry person is made to feel less so. Word of the day for January 20th. Today's word is vulpine, spelled V-U-L-P-I-N-E. Vulpine is an adjective. It's a formal word that means of, relating to, or similar to a fox. It's also used figuratively to mean shrewd or crafty. Here's the word used in a sentence from the New York Times by Molly Young. I was reading in peace when a shocking noise came through the window, the sound of a person shrieking in distress. A spurt of hasty Googling revealed that I was hearing vixen screeches, the mating calls of local red foxes. Breeding season in Massachusetts, where I'm currently located, is approaching its conclusion. Silence will soon return, but a part of me will miss the adrenaline spikes caused by these haunting vulpine screams. In Walden, Henry David Thoreau described foxes crying out as they hunted through the winter forest, and he wrote, "Sometimes one came near to my window, attracted by my light, barked a vulpine curse at me, and then retreated." Thoreau's was far from the first use of the word vulpine to describe our sly friends. English writers have been applying that adjective to the fox-like as well as the shrewd and crafty since at least the 15th century, and the Latin parent of our term, vulpinus, from the Latin word vulpes, meaning fox, was around long before that. Incidentally, the scientific name of the red fox, one of two possible North American fox species to have cussed out Thoreau, is Vulpes vulpes. Word of the day for January 21st. Today's word is exacerbate, spelled E-X-A-C-E-R-B-A-T-E. Exacerbate is a verb. It means to make more violent, bitter, or severe. Here's the word used in a sentence from sfgate.com by Amelia Benton. If you tend to use the elliptical when you're recovering from a running or other sports-related injury, this could be the machine for you. Even though ellipticals are known to be one of the best options for low-impact exercise, they can sometimes still exacerbate joint pain or healing injuries. This machine, however, is similar to a recumbent bike in that you use it while seated, which takes stress off your back and eliminates potential additional body fatigue. The Latin adjective acer, A-C-E-R, meaning sharp, forms the basis of a number of English words, including acerbic, meaning having a bitter temper or sour mood, acrid, meaning having a sharp taste or odor, and acrimony, meaning a harsh manner or disposition. They're just the tip of the jagged iceberg. First appearing in English in the 17th century, exacerbate combines the Latin prefix ex ex, meaning out of or outside, with acer, offspring, acerbus, meaning harsh or bitter. Just as pouring salt in a wound worsens pain, things that exacerbate cause a situation to go from bad to worse. A pointed insult or cutting remark, for example, might exacerbate tensions between two bitter rivals. The legacy of acer isn't all negative, however. The Latin name for the genus of maple trees and shrubs is acer, owing to maples' characteristically pointy leaves. Word of the day for January 23rd. Today's word is endemic, spelled E-N-D-E-M-I-C. Endemic is an adjective. It means growing or existing in a certain place or region. It can also mean common in a particular area or field. Here's the word used in a sentence from ABC News by Julia Jacobo. Scientists have also documented the presence of Galapagos rails, known locally as paches, an endemic bird never before reported on this island, on the upper part of Pinzon Island. The word endemic made its way into English via French and New Latin, and likely has its ultimate origin in the Greek adjective endemos, a word with multiple uses, among which is one describing a disease confined to one area. Endemos was formed from en, meaning in, and a form of the noun demos, meaning district, country, people. That word was also the key to the formation of the earlier word on which endemos was modeled, epidemia, meaning disease affecting a large number of individuals. English adopted epidemic, also via French, in the early 17th century, but endemic didn't become endemic until a century and a half later. The now too familiar relation pandemic slipped into the language in the mid-17th century. In current use, endemic characterizes diseases that are generally found in a particular area. Malaria, for example, is said to be endemic to tropical and subtropical regions, while epidemic indicates a sudden severe outbreak within that region or group. Endemic is also used by biologists to characterize plant and animal species that are found only in a given area. Word of the day for January 24th. Today's word is balkanize, spelled B-A-L-K-A-N-I-Z-E. Balkanize is a verb. It's an often capitalized verb meaning to break up a region, a group, etc. into smaller and often hostile units. It can also mean to divide or compartmentalize. Here's the word used in a sentence from Fortune by Andy Purdy. The so-called Clean Networks Initiative used a trusted country of origin requirement to insulate the U.S. from Chinese technology, while pressing American allies to exclude Chinese equipment from their 5G telecom networks. But splitting the digital world in half would balkanize the technical standards that companies and governments use to collaborate across borders, thereby restricting their ability to innovate. The Balkan Peninsula of southeastern Europe is lapped by the Adriatic Sea in the west and the Black Sea in the east. It is named for the Balkan Mountains, a mountain range which extends across Bulgaria from its border with Serbia to the Black Sea. The word Balkan comes from the Ottoman Turkish word meaning wooded mountain or mountain range. The Balkan states are commonly characterized as comprising Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Romania, Serbia, and Slovenia, with mainland portions of Greece and the European portion of Turkey often being included as well. The English word, which is often capitalized, is the lexical offspring of geography and history. The decline of the Ottoman Empire in the 18th century led to a series of revolts that accelerated the fracturing of the region into smaller states, whose unstable coexistence led to violence that came to a head in World War I. Since the early 20th century, balkanize and its related noun, balkanization, have come to refer to the kind of divisive action that can weaken countries or groups, among other things. Here's word of the day for January 25th. Today's word is marginalia, spelled M-A-R-G-I-N-A-L-I-A. Marginalia is a plural noun. It refers to notes or other marks written in the margins of a text and to non-essential matters or items. Here's a word used in a sentence from the Star Tribune of Minneapolis by Lori Herzl. The last time I wrote about culling books, 6 years ago, nostalgia was my biggest obstacle. Just about every book I opened contained some sort of ephemera that stopped me. A bookmark from a long-gone bookstore, a scribble from a mostly forgotten college class, an old photograph or letter, or, most nostalgic of all, my late father's signature and marginalia. In the introduction to his essay titled Marginalia, Edgar Allan Poe wrote, "In getting my books, I have always been solicitous of an ample margin. This not so much through any love of the thing in itself, however agreeable, as for the facility it affords me of penciling suggested thoughts, agreements, and differences of opinion, or brief critical comments in general." At the time marginalia was first published in 1844, the word marginalia was only a few decades old, despite describing something, notes in the margin of a text, that had existed for centuries. An older word, apostle, refers to a single annotation made in a margin, but that word is rarely used today. Even if you are not, like Poe, simply ravenous for scribbling in your own books, you likely know marginalia as a telltale sign that someone has read a particular volume before you. There's word of the day for January 26th. Today's word is knackered, spelled K-N-A-C-K-E-R-E-D. Knackered is an adjective. It's mostly used informally in British English to mean very tired or exhausted. Here's the word used in a sentence from the Washington Post by Chuck Culpepper. Jonathan Smith played world-class tennis in the Grand Slams of the 1970s. He calls croquet a great game for anyone who's a bit knackered after the strains on the joints and whatnot from a pursuit such as tennis or rugby. An apt synonym for the word knackered might be the phrase dead tired, for more than one reason. Knackered comes from the past participle of knacker, a slang term meaning to kill, as well as to tire, exhaust, or wear out. The origins of the verb knacker are uncertain, but the word is perhaps related to an older noun, knacker. That word originally referred to a harness maker or saddle maker, and later to a buyer of animals no longer able to do farm work or their carcasses, as well as to a buyer of old structures. Knackered is used on both sides of the Atlantic, but is more common among British speakers. With your